In the headlines, Iran has declared a total halt on all tanker transits through the Strait of Hormuz. State media reports the critical waterway has come to a complete standstill as Tehran makes its most aggressive move yet in the escalating regional conflict. And while a temporary trust has taken hold over Iran, Lebanon is reeling. Israeli airstrikes have reduced large parts of Beirut and Sidon to rubble, with hundreds of casualties reported in what officials are calling the most devastating assault on Lebanese soil in more than 4 decades. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu is declaring victory, saying Israel's military campaign have moved what he called the existential threat to his country. But Netanyahu is warning the new 2-week ceasefire is only, quote, a station on the way, as the IDF unleashes record strikes on Hezbollah positions. The United Nations is strongly condemning Israel's latest strikes on Lebanon, calling them the heaviest since the conflict with Hezbollah erupted last month. The UN says the mounting civilian death toll is deeply alarming and is calling for an immediate halt to the attacks. Back home, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is assuring the public that he is in good health, thanking those who expressed concern. Meanwhile, Malacanang is warning that it will go after those spreading false information about the president's condition. And in sports, Cade Cunningham is back. The Detroit Pistons star returned after missing 11 games with a collapsed lung, posting a double-double to power Detroit past the Milwaukee Bucks. I'm Curtis Tripoli. Newsline World starts now. For our first story, China has defended its role in efforts to ease tensions in the Middle East, following remarks by Donald Trump suggesting Beijing influenced Iran's return to negotiations. More details from Taiwan.
Speaking at a press briefing, Mao Ning said China has been actively promoting peace since the outbreak of hostilities involving Iran.
伊朗战事爆发以来，中方一直积极致力于促和止战。王毅外长同相关国家的外长先后26次通话。中国政府中东问题特使赴中东和海湾地区穿梭访问。中国和巴基斯坦还共同提出了关于恢复海湾和中东地区和平稳定的5点倡议。作为负责任大国，中国将继续发挥建设性作用，为恢复海湾和中东地区的和平安宁做出积极贡献。
Beijing also highlighted a joint 5-point initiative with Pakistan aimed at restoring stability in the Gulf and wider Middle East. On the situation in the Strait of Hormuz, Mao addressed China and Russia's decision to veto a UN resolution tied to reopening the key shipping route.
中方主张，海湾国家的主权、安全和领土完整应得到充分尊重，航道以及能源基础设施安全应当得到保障。霍尔木兹海峡通航受阻的根本原因是美国和以色列对伊朗的非法军事行动。解决霍尔木兹海峡通航问题的根本之策是尽快停火止战。
China warned that actions by the United Nations Security Council should focus on the escalation, cautioning against measures that could legitimize further military operations.
安理会的行动应当着眼于缓局降温，不能给未经授权的军事行动披上合法外衣，不能给使用武力开通行证，更不能火上浇油，导致冲突升级。中方的投票立场客观公正，经得起历史的检验。
China says it will continue to play what it calls a constructive role in promoting dialogue as tensions in the Middle East remain high and global powers push for a diplomatic solution. Reporting for Newsline World, Kay Villan, SMNA News.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has declared that the ongoing campaign has moved to the existential threat to Israel, warning that the new 2-week ceasefire is only a station on the way to total victory. Jane Cunita has the details.
Defiant primetime address marking the start of a 14-day truce between Washington and Tehran, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu claimed Israel has achieved imaginary success over the last 6 weeks. Netanyahu asserted that the joint U.S.-Israeli operation has crushed Iran's missile and nuclear production machines, leaving the regime with no choice but to reopen the Strait of Hormuz without its previous preconditions. The Prime Minister emphasized that the ceasefire negotiated in full coordination with Israel does not signal the end of the war, but rather a temporary pause while the finger remains on the trigger.
איראן נכנסת למשא ומתן הזה כשהיא מוכה, כשהיא חלשה מאי פעם. היא התחייבה לפתוח את מצרי הורמוז לאחר שהיא ויתרה על כל התנאים המקדימים שהיא הציבה. היא ויתרה על ביטול הסנקציות, קבלת פיצויים, סיום סופי של המלחמה וגם הפסקת אש בלבנון.
While the guns fell silent over Iran, they roared with unprecedented intensity in Lebanon. Minutes before the ceasefire took effect, the IDF launched what it described as its most significant firepower operation against Hezbollah since 1982. Air Force jets struck 100 targets in just 10 minutes, targeting intelligence hubs and Radwan Force command centers. The IDF spokesperson Afi Defrin confirmed that while the campaign against Iran has met its objectives, the ground maneuver to demilitarize southern Lebanon will continue with full force until the threat to northern Israel residents is removed. However, the Prime Minister's victory narrative is facing a fierce domestic challenge. Opposition leader Yair Lapid slammed the agreement as a diplomatic disaster, claiming Netanyahu has turned Israel into a client state that was pushed away from the negotiating table. Lapid argued that the ceasefire failed to defeat the Iranian regime or permanently stop the nuclear program, calling it a strategic collapse masked by theatrical press conferences.
בנימין נתניהו התייצב בפני מדינת ישראל וינסה למכור לכם שהמערכה באיראן הייתה הצלחה. זה יהיה שקר מוחלט. ינסו למכור לכם שהשפענו מאחורי הקלעים, שהתייעצו איתנו, שהיו שיחות ליליות ופגישות חשאיות. תדעו, אלו שקרים חלולים. נתניהו הפך אותנו למדינת חסות שמקבלת הנחיות בטלפון בנושאים שנוגעים לליבת הביטחון הלאומי שלנו, וברגע קריטי לביטחוננו הרחיקו אותו מהשולחן. כל העולם ראה את זה, כל המזרח התיכון ראה את זה. ברגע האמת הורידו את ממשלת ישראל מדרגה של בעל ברית אסטרטגי לרמה של קבלן פיצוצי.
Despite the political infighting, the IDF maintains that the war of resurrection has fundamentally reset the Middle East. With Tehran's leadership decimated and its military infrastructure in ruins, the focus now shifts to Islamabad for final negotiations. Yet, as the people of Israel celebrate the Maimuna festival, the military remains on high alert, prepared to resume the lion's roar the moment the 14-day clock runs out. This has been Jane Coniter, Global Citizen Correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
While a temporary trust has taken hold over Iran, Lebanon has been plunged into a catastrophic wave of violence as Israeli airstrikes reduce large swaths of Beirut and Sidon to rubble. More of this from Marfursuelo.
The landscape of southern Lebanon and the capital city of Beirut changed in a matter of minutes as the Israel Defense Forces launched what experts call the most significant aerial bombardment since 1982 invasion. Footage from Sidon and Beirut shows a hellscape of charred vehicles and flattered residential blocks, with rescue teams desperately digging through mountains of debris for survivors. Lebanon's public health minister, Rakan Nassereddin, confirmed the toll is devastating, with hundreds killed or injured nationwide. In Sidon alone, strikes on the old district and residential areas have crippled water and electricity networks, leaving the local population in a state of total collapse. The IDF claimed the operation was a coordinated masterstroke, hitting over 100 Hezbollah command centers and military assets across Beirut, the Bekaa Valley, and the south. However, Lebanese Prime Minister Nawaf Salam has accused Israel of disregarding all international efforts for peace, pointing out that the bombardment occurred just as a 2-week U.S.-Iran ceasefire was taking effect. Despite the ceasefire agreement brokered by President Trump to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, the Israeli military has made it clear that Lebanon remains an active front. While Tehran has signaled a halt to defensive operations, the people of Lebanon find themselves caught in the crossfire of a regional war of resurrection that shows no signs of slowing down on the northern border. Reporting from Newsline World, Almar Forzuelo, SMNI News.
Iran has declared a total suspension of all tanker transits through the Strait of Hormuz, with state media reporting that tanker traffic through the critical waterway has come to a complete standstill. This is a sharp escalating in the ongoing regional conflict. Iran's state-run Press TV and Fars news agency reported that the Strait of Hormuz has been fully closed, forcing all tankers already in transit to turn back. The suspension was declared as Israeli military operations in Lebanon intensified. According to Iranian state media, tanker traffic through the strategic choke point, through which a significant portion of the world's oil supply passes, has been at a standstill for several hours, reports say. Meanwhile, Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi has urged Iran to swiftly guarantee safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, calling it a, quote, vital artery for global logistics, as Tokyo welcomed the two-week US-Iran ceasefire as a positive move. Daniela Paulita reports.
Japanese diplomacy shifted into high gear as Prime Minister Takaichi held her first ever phone call with Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian. A 25-minute exchange focused on the volatile situation in the Middle East and its consequences for global energy supply. Takaichi pressed the Iranian leader to swiftly restore safe navigation through the Strait of Hormuz, calling it a vital international waterway, and urged early de-escalation across the region. The ceasefire was announced by mediator Pakistan just before the expiry of U.S. President Donald Trump's self-imposed deadline, which had threatened destruction of Iranian critical infrastructure if Tehran failed to reopen the strait. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said Iran's military will cease defensive operations if attacks against it are stopped, and that safe passage through the strait would be possible for 2 weeks, subject to coordination with Iranian armed forces. Japan's stake in the crisis is significant. The country relies on the Middle East for more than 90% of its crude oil imports, the vast majority of which pass through the strait. Since the U.S. and Israel began military operations against Iran in late February, the effective blockade of the choke point has triggered oil supply disruptions and price surges worldwide. Tokyo has condemned Tehran's de facto blockade and its attacks on neighboring states, but has stopped short of making any legal assessment of U.S. and Israeli military operations against Iran. Reporting for Newsline World, Daniela Paulita, SMNI News.
The United Nations has strongly condemned Israel's latest strikes on Lebanon, calling them the heaviest since the conflict with Hezbollah broke out last month, as the civilian death toll continues to rise. Virgil Parba has the details.
The condemnation against Israel for striking Lebanon came from the UN's deputy spokesperson Farhan Haq at a daily briefing, who called on all sides to pursue diplomatic channels and commit to a permanent ceasefire. The strikes come even as Hezbollah had paused its attack on northern Israel and Israeli troops in Lebanon following the 2-week US-Iran ceasefire agreement.
The UN strongly condemns the loss of civilian lives. The ceasefire between the US and Iran offers an opportunity to prevent further loss of lives between Lebanon and Israel.
Haq also raised alarm over the safety of UN peacekeepers in the region after Israeli Defense Forces detained a UN peacekeeper on Tuesday. He urged all actors to uphold their obligations under international law and ensure the protection of UN personnel and property.
Such detention of United Nations peacekeepers in violation of international law. We stress again that any intimidation or interference in the Mission Security Council mandated tasks must stop immediately.
The UN is calling for full implementation of Security Council Resolution number 1701, the 2006 agreement that ended the last major war between Israel and Hezbollah. Haq stressed there is no military solution to the conflict, urging all parties back to the negotiating table. Israel has not publicly responded to the UN's condemnation. The Security Council is expected to hold consultations on Lebanon later this week. This has been Virgil Parba, your global citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Up next, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. is assuring the public that he is in good health, thanking those who expressed concern. Meanwhile, Malacanang is warning that it will go after those spreading false information about the president's condition. And in sports, Cade Cunningham is back. The Detroit Pistons stars return after missing 11 games with a collapsed lung, posting a double-double to power Detroit past the Milwaukee Bucks. More news when Newsline World returns.
In 2005, Pastor Apollo C. Kibuloy founded the Sunshine Philippines movement. A mission rooted in love for nature and nation. It began as an environmental and humanitarian initiative to reforest Mount Apo. Once barren, now a thriving and beautiful place. Through his initiative, thousands of trees have been planted across the Philippines, bringing life and hope to communities. His advocacy, One Tree, One Nation, is also a movement that calls for unity in preserving the environment. Because every tree planted is a step towards unity, healing, and a greater future. Join One Tree, One Nation.
Every day begins with a choice: to stay down or to rise and chase the dream. For athletes, success is not built overnight. It is shaped in silence long before the crowd arrives.
When you become an athlete in any sport events like boxing, any kind of gymnastics or any kind of triathlon, ganon. You are a runner, you are a marathoner, you are a boxer, you are an Olympic athlete. There's a lot of restrictions compared to a regular person who is not involved in any kind of sports.
Restrictions are not punishment. They are preparation.
For the athlete, it's nothing. It's their lifestyle. For the regular jando outside looking at you, parang naawa sila eh. Yung pagkain mo, puro healthy. It needs a lot of discipline for an athlete in a competition.
The same is true in the spiritual life. The way is not wide. It is not easy. It is narrow.
So, Jesus Christ also mentioned that in a very vivid statement when he said, the way to life is very narrow and very strict and very small.
89 kilograms, please.
What the world calls restriction, the faithful call obedience.
For us, there is no restrictions. That is so restricted enough that we cannot do it. And when it becomes our lifestyle, it's nothing. It's regular for us. Regular for us to be clean-minded, regular for us to be orderly, regular for us to be straightforward. Obedience, commitment, loyalty,
dedication, repented in the sight of the Father.
Because this life is a race.
Are we in this life in a competition? Yes, very much. Because Paul said that also. They that run in a race run all, but one receives the prize.
Not everyone who runs wins. Only those who endure.
In order for you to be in a race, you have to be disciplined. So the kingdom nation's citizenship is a disciplined citizenship.
Run the race. Choose the narrow way. Live the disciplined life. Because the prize is eternal.
Ang buot sa Diyos, kitang mga katawhan, tunay espiritong mupadayon o muantos. Kay dakitan sa Diyos sa unahan, basta mahimo ka ng anak sa Ginoo sa gingharian, daghan ang mga pagsulay. Kung way pagantos, di ka makalahutay. Kung walay pagkamakanunayon, dili gyapon ka makalahutay. Ang tuyo sa Diyos, nga ang matagos nga gitawag, makalahutay. Makalahutay lamang sa mga pagsulay kundili sa pagtubo nga makaabot siya sa ikaupat nga laka nga dito na manukat ang iyang reward.
And we're back. The National Bureau of Investigation has arrested 5 Chinese nationals in Parañaque City on charges of illegal detention after rescuing a fellow Chinese national who had been held captive and forced into an online love scam operation. This report. The NBI's National Capital Region Office launched the operation after a friend of the victim filed a complaint, alleging the victim have been illegally detained since March 29 inside a residential property in Parañaque City. Investigators found the victim had been coerced into participating in an online love scam run by an individual known only as Boss Aping. The victim also reportedly suffered physical abuse and death threats whether attempts to escape were made.
Serious illegal detention, tsaka kidnapping and physical injuries kasi may mga pananakit eh.
The 5 suspects are now facing inquest proceedings before the Parañaque City Prosecutor's Office, charged with violation of Article 267 of the Revised Penal Code, or serious illegal detention. Matibag also confirmed that the suspects' documents in the Philippines had already expired at the time of their arrest.
Chinese para sa Chinese victims saka yung mga perpetrators. It looks like they hindi kasi they're lured to work with them eh. Lalo ng trabaho eh. Pinag-aaralan pa namin. So, yung angulo kung ano sila. Dahil mga Chinese nationals na yung involved eh.
As the Philippines mark the Day of Valor, President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. urged Filipinos to demonstrate courage, unity, and love of country in facing today's challenges. Wrestling Katarong reports.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. said that although the Philippines is facing challenges, compassion, unity, and patriotism must always remain strong. In his message for Araw ng Kagitingan or Day of Valor on April 9, the President said that today's problems are different. Still, the values needed to overcome them remain the same.
We gather here today to remember those who stood firm in the face of overwhelming adversity, as well as to reaffirm the values that they lived and that they died for, the values of courage, of dignity, and an unyielding love of country.
He encouraged citizens to practice bravery in their daily lives by making the right decisions, helping others, and standing up for what is right. He emphasized that a nation's true strength is not only measured by its achievements, but by how its people rise together during difficult times. Marcos also honored the sacrifices of Filipino heroes who fought for freedom, especially those who defended Bataan and Corregidor during World War II. He said their courage continues to inspire Filipinos to work hard for their families and contribute to national progress.
No tribute can ever equal the debt that we owe you. But let this gathering stand as a promise that your service will never be forgotten. Your stories will always be told, and your legacy will drive us forward.
The Day of Valor commemorates the bravery of Filipino and American soldiers who defended Bataan against Japanese forces during the war. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Cresceline Catarong, SMNI News.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. thanked those who are concerned about his health, while assuring that he is in good condition. Meanwhile, the palace warned against those who are spreading false information about the president's health. Cresceline Catarong is back for more news.
President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. dismissed what he described as concerns circulating on social media regarding his health. In a video released by the Presidential Communications Office on Wednesday, Marcos Jr. assured the public that he is in good health.
I'm struggling kasi ayoko tumaba ulit. Nawala na yung taba ko, baka babalik. So that's what I'm taking care of. But I want to magpapasalamat naman ako sa mga nag-aalala sa akin. Huwag niyo pong masyadong siniseryoso. Alam mo naman ang social media, palabiro yan eh.
He added that he has resumed his regular fitness routine despite his busy schedule.
Wala nang bawal. Matagal nang wala na. More than 1 month na akong walang bawal. Actually, wala naman talagang bawal. Marami lang suggestion. Iwasan ko itong ganito, iwasan mo yung masyadong mantikain.
The president also said that he continues to monitor his health to stay fit for work. Despite this, the Presidential Communications Office earlier stated that it will file complaints against individuals allegedly spreading false information about Marcos Jr.'s health. According to PCO Secretary Dave Gomez, their office is currently gathering evidence to file appropriate complaints with the Department of Justice next week. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Cresceline Catarong, SMNI News.
Philippine Airlines is reopening flights between Manila and Riyadh starting April 10, 2026, following tensions in the Middle East. Philippine Airlines is bringing its Manila-Riyadh route back online, offering relief to thousands of Filipino workers and their families who depend on the connection to the kingdom. But the resumption comes with adjustments. With the regional security situation still being closely watched, PAL says passenger and crew safety remains its top priority, and the airline will temporarily operate along an alternative flight route. Some Manila-Riyadh flights will make a short technical stop in Bangkok for refueling. Passengers will not be required to disembark and will remain on board throughout the stopover. PAL says it is continuously monitoring developments in the region and will restore its normal route and back capacity as soon as conditions allow. In the meantime, passengers are advised to confirm their bookings before heading to the airport. Flight updates and booking status are available throughout the PAL-managed booking portal.
Pagod? Nanunuyo ang lalamunan? O baka naman nahihirapan kang mag-focus sa ginagawa? Kapartner, baka naman dehydrated ka na. Ang katawan natin ay binubuo ng halos 60% hanggang 70% na tubig. Kung walang sapat na hydration, parang sasakyang walang gasolina ang ating katawan, hindi makakaarangkada. Bakit nga ba mahalaga ang tamang hydration? Hindi lamang ito pamatid-uhaw dahil nakatutulong rin ito sa pagdaloy ng sustansya sa katawan, pagpapanatili ng tamang body temperature, at pagpapakinis ng kutis. Kaya't huwag nang hintayin pang mauhaw ka bago uminom. Ang pagkauhaw ay babala na ng iyong katawan na ikaw ay dehydrated na. Ang standard na payo ng mga doktor ay 8 baso ng tubig ang dapat inumin bawat araw. Pero tandaan, depende ito sa iyong timbang, edad at kung gaano ka ka-active. Samantala, narito ang ilang gabay para manatiling hydrated. Simula ng araw sa isang basong tubig, magbaon ng sariling tumbler para siguradong may maiinom saan man magpunta. At hanggat maaari, piliin ang tubig kaysa mga matatamis na inumin. Kaya mga kapartner, manatiling hydrated para makaiwas sa mas malalang sakit at upang maalagaan ang iyong kalusugan.
A 68-year-old delivery driver in the United States is receiving an unexpected early retirement gift after a simple act of kindness went viral. A stranger launched a GoFundMe campaign to repay his generous gesture, and the donations have since poured in, surpassing all expectations. Selma Reese has the full story.
We had a Diet Coke.
Oh, okay.
I stopped at the store though. So.
Oh, you did not have to do that.
That's okay.
Did you really?
Yeah, that's all right.
Oh, man.
Dan Simpson, who has been working as a Domino's delivery driver for over 14 years in Boise, Idaho, made headlines after a thoughtful act of service during a routine delivery. On March 27, Simpson realized the store had run out of Diet Coke, a key item in the customer's order. Rather than leave the order incomplete, Simpson made a detour to a nearby store and bought the missing drink with his own money. The entire encounter was captured on Brian Wilson's doorbell camera, which was later shared on social media. The video quickly went viral, accumulating millions of views worldwide. Brian Wilson and his wife Katie was deeply moved by Simpson's gesture. Wilson, touched by Simpson's kindness, launched a GoFundMe campaign to help the delivery driver who was nearing retirement. The response was overwhelming, with donations flooding in from all over the world. Within just a few days, the campaign now raised more than $130,000, far surpassing its initial goal. Simpson, who supplements his day job with delivery work, has faced financial hardship and was planning to retire at the end of April. But with the generosity pouring in from around the world, Simpson's future looks much brighter. With plans to travel and enjoy his retirement more comfortably, Simpson says he is humbled by the support and still in disbelief over the outpouring of generosity. This has been Stella Maris, your citizen correspondent, reporting for Newsline World.
Tourists are flocking to Amer Fort in Jaipur, drawn by its rich history, architectural grandeur, and scenic views. More details from Joy Tabanao.
The centuries-old fort, once home to kings, continues to captivate visitors with its intricate carvings, expansive courtyards, and sweeping panoramic views.
आमेर किला बहुत सुंदर है क्योंकि यहाँ हमारे पूर्वजों की राजाओं महाराजाओं की विरासत संभाले हुए है और देखने में वैसे बहुत सुंदर है। यहाँ की मावठा झील वगैरह, अंदर का बाग, शिला माता का मंदिर बहुत अच्छा।
Visitors exploring the site say they are amazed by how much massive structures were built on elevated terrain using the craftsmanship of the time.
इतने बड़े-बड़े महल कैसे बनाई, वो भी इतने ऊंचे-ऊंचे पहाड़ों पे, लेकिन उस टाइम की नक्काशी कलाकारी वाकई कमाल।
From elephant rides to climbing the fort's historic stairways, tourists are immersing themselves in both the cultural and natural beauty of the landmark.
यहाँ आके सबसे पहले एक हिस्टोरिक माइंड आता है कि आप यहाँ पे जितने ऐसे पूरा प्रॉपर हिस्टोरिक व्यूज आप देखते हैं, जो फोर्ट्स हमने आप टीवी में देखे हैं, जो हमने सीरियल्स में देखे हैं, वो फोर्ट हमें यहाँ पे दिखता है, जो बहुत अच्छा लगता है कि अपना हिस्ट्री कितना बेस्ट और कैसे कैसे कब युद्ध की तैयारी कैसे क्या होती थी, वो सब आज लाइव देख के अच्छा लगा।
Many also highlighted the fort's innovative design, including seasonal palaces and natural cooling systems used long before modern technology.
जिस तरीके से अंदर दो महल हैं, गर्मी का महल, सर्दी का महल, जब कोई कूलर नहीं थे, एसी नहीं थे, बट एक नेचुरल साइंस को किस तरीके से उन्होंने यूज़ किया फैसिलिटीज़ प्रोवाइड करने के लिए, वो तो अमेजिंग है ही। जैसे जो उनका दीवारें यहाँ में और एक सिक्योरिटी फोर्ट्रेस है प्लस लिविंग हाउस है, तो बहुत ही सुंदर है।
The blend of Mongol and traditional Indian architecture further adds to the fort's unique charm, making it one of the Jaipur's most iconic attractions. As visitors continue to explore Amer Fort, its enduring legacy stands as a testament to India's rich cultural heritage and architectural brilliance. This has been Joy Demanao, your global citizen correspondent reporting for Newsline World.
Cyril Manabat has spoken out after a TNVS driver allegedly made inappropriate remarks toward her during a recent ride. Meanwhile, a new docuseries following the journey of Bini is set to premiere on Netflix this April 10. Faith Agustin has the latest buzz.
Filipina actress Cyril Manabat did not hold back in expressing her frustration, saying she had been kind to the driver throughout the trip despite the alleged inappropriate behavior. The incident came to light after a Facebook user, Boss Toy Mansi, shared a photo of himself with Manabat on April 8, appearing to show that she had booked a ride in his vehicle. The post quickly gained traction online, sparking discussions about passenger safety and proper conduct among ride-hailing drivers. As of now, no official statement has been released regarding any investigation into the alleged incident. The situation has renewed calls for stricter accountability and professionalism within transport network vehicle services. Meanwhile, P-pop girl group Bini series will take fans behind the scenes of the group's rise from their early training days to becoming one of the country's top pop acts. In a post on Instagram, Netflix Philippines invited fans, known as Blooms, to rewind and repeat Bini's journey, highlighting the group's growth and milestones. The release marks another milestone for Bini as they continue to expand their reach, bringing Filipino pop music to a global streaming audience. This has been Faith Agustin, your global citizen correspondent, bringing you the latest show buzz.
In sports, Josh Butler rediscovered his battling touch and delivered the decisive play as the Johara Titans edged the Delhi Capitals by 1 run in a dramatic Indian Premier League clash. Meanwhile, after missing 11 games due to a collapsed lung, Cade Cunningham made an impressive return. Recording a double-double to power the Detroit Pistons past the Milwaukee Bucks. Carlo De La Peña tells us more.
In a high-scoring thriller that went down to the final ball, Gujarat narrowly defended their total to secure the victory. Butler smashed a quick-fire 52 of 27 balls to help Gujarat post a formidable 210-4, ending an 18-innings drought without a half-century across formats. The England wicketkeeper struck 5 sixes, including a trademark scoop and a towering hit over long on, before he was eventually dismissed in the 8th over. However, Butler's biggest impact came in the final moments of the match. With Delhi needing 2 runs off the last ball, he produced a sharp underarm throw from behind the stumps to run out Kuldeep Yadav and seal the victory. South Africa's David Miller nearly pulled off the chase after blasting 2 sixes and 2 fours in the 19th over and another maximum in the final over, but finished unbeaten on 41 from 20 balls. Delhi opener KL Rahul earlier anchored the innings with 92 runs, but fell short of guiding his team to the target. For Gujarat, captain Shubman Hill contributed 70 off 45 deliveries, while all-rounder Washington Sundar added 55 from 32 balls to strengthen the Titans' total. Meanwhile, in his first game back from injury, Cunningham immediately helped Detroit regain its rhythm on the floor. Cunningham finished with 13 points and 10 assists in just 26 minutes as the Detroit Pistons cruised to a dominant 137-111 victory over the Milwaukee Bucks. The Pistons star quickly made his presence felt, scoring early in the first quarter, including a dunk off an alley-oop pass from Oscar Thompson. It was Cunningham's first game since March 17 when he suffered a collapsed lung after colliding with Trey Johnson during a matchup against the Washington Wizards. Despite the injury setback, Cunningham has been enjoying a breakout season, averaging 24.5 points, 9.9 assists, and 5.6 rebounds per game. However, the injury will likely cost him eligibility for major NBA awards because he cannot reach the league's required 65 games played this season. The rule has sparked debate across the league, with the National Basketball Players Association calling for changes, while NBA Commissioner Adam Silver defended it as a measure to limit load management. Meanwhile, Pistons big man Isaiah Stewart also returned from injury, adding 8 points off the bench as Detroit improved to 58-22 on the season. Reporting for Newsline World, this has been Carlo de la Peña bringing you the latest sports news.
And before we end, may we be inspired with the words of the song. The Word of God is the most important thing and factor in the life of an individual. And that's all for this edition of Newsline World. For God in my beloved country, the Philippines, I'm Prince Tripoli. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
This is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.